we have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Don't make me laugh.
Proof Biden and his team know a lot about election fraud. So much that he thought he knew exactly how to pull it off. Joe Biden and the Democrats are unreal, and I can't believe.
Trump's legal team. She told Fox News about what she calls an insidious and corrupt system surrounding the use of Dominion voting systems and its Smartmatic software. She said, "We're collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software." Several Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, investigated Dominion voting systems last December. They were concerned about the integrity of elections since Dominion and other election software companies have ties to private industry. Powell said she's furious at the government for ignoring complaints from Democrats about the potential.
3 Democratic individuals raised concern about Dominion voting systems, with their concern of there being fraud and their election getting stolen from them in the primaries.
Corruption in this software. She is concerned that the CIA may have used the software for its own benefit and called for CIA Director Gina Haspel's removal. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Not being compliant. Our votes are being suppressed. We cannot count the votes properly. What's happening is they have moved the barrier up to 6 feet, but they took away the ballot machines that were in the front row and moved them to the back of the building. It's unbelievable what they're trying to do to our votes that have been legally cast, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Republican observers expressed concern that they were not close enough to the ballot counting. The Democrat-ran state, Pennsylvania, moved up the line to which they could stand. Subsequently, at the same time, they moved the ballot machines to the back of the room.
President and on the board of directors of Smartmatic, and it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states, and President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion.
Guy in Biden's transitional team is on the board of directors for Smartmatics, who's a parent company to Dominion Voting Systems, the main voting systems used in over 30 states, and has proven backdoors.
So, the organizers were reduced to finding these machines on eBay, which right there is pretty terrifying because it turns out that anybody can buy some of the most common machines in use on eBay. What was really alarming was when you see these hackers, and these are people who've never seen these machines before, have had no practice on them for the most part, come in and engage them, they immediately get into the guts of them. Beyond that, we were seeing Dominion's image cast system. It's a line of tabulators that paper ballots are fed into. That had its guts all over the room. It was not clear to us whether this was...
Would never lose another election, and he did not after that software was created. He won every single election, and then they exported it to Argentina and other countries in South America, and then they brought it here. And it's a foreign company no matter how you look at it, so they've already violated the president's order against foreign interference in our elections. Our votes were actually eventually counted in Barcelona, Spain, or Frankfurt, Germany, on foreign servers. It's absolutely stunning, and what's really stunning is the effort that is being mounted against getting the truth out on this. But you have to realize that every tech company, every media company, every social media company, scads of globalist corporations have been doing business in countries with these dictators that have been installed through this rigged election system for decades.
It's a known fact that Twitter, Facebook, and Amazon, other tech giants, are directly correlated to the Democratic Party. They often censor and flag his claims, but never anything flagged from the Democratic Party.
Election system for decades. The corruption is actually worldwide. It is going to upset a countless number of elections across this country and around the world.
All right.
But we need to do that to get rid of the corruption.
It does
prove using this number.
Let's look at proof that they stole third-party candidate votes to help Biden beat Trump in the state of Michigan.
To Biden, but I can prove using this numbers that's publicly available that they kept the third-party vote at 2.1% and would not let it get higher than that. Let's look at the Trump numbers. They only did the one major adjustment to Trump that we've already talked about, and then they also adjusted roughly 3,000 votes either way. Now, they also adjusted Biden, but they did him a lot more. They stole roughly 9,000 votes from him. And I think that the reason that they did that was in order to keep it looking legitimate. If Biden hadn't had any votes taken from him, then people would just automatically assume that this was cheating. But because there's so many votes taken from all three candidates, it creates an air of mystery, and so it can't be proven either way. And this is the smokescreen that they're running in order to avoid being easily detected. But the strategy here that they went with is the third-party votes were not allowed to get more than 2.1%, and the votes were consistently stolen from the third party. And I think what happened is they probably, although I can't say for sure, gave those votes to Biden over the course of the evening, is what happened. So that is how the Minnesota election was stolen from the third party and given to Biden.
Let's not forget that Al Gore thought he was president for 37 days in the 2000 election. Some would perceive to say that he used Dominion voting systems to cheat Florida, and it triggered a recount, and they only used it in equal 6 this year.
Doing one thing to determine valid versus invalid. The Secretary of State goes on TV and says that he is. The Secretary of State of Georgia is a liar. I don't make those types of accusations lightly. But I will tell you that our Secretary of State and our Governor Brian Kemp are dirty. They're corrupted. First time that it was done. They did it, I've heard, clearly in 2012. Biden and Obama did it in Florida. Hillary Clinton used it in 2016, but her algorithm came up short. Donald Trump won by so many votes. They used it in 2018 in the midterm elections to win the House. This year they added in the safeguard where if the computer algorithm, which can shift the votes 3%, did not provide enough votes, they've started bringing in the special ballots, the mail-in ballots. Donald Trump won by such a large margin that in the middle of the night they had to stop counting, and you'll see in key states they started bringing in ballots by the truckload. All of them for Biden, many of them in these mail-in ballots with little bubbles for you to circle the person you selected. All of them for Biden with perfect circles. I believe upon examination you're going to find those perfect circles were made by a computer. This election was stolen, but they got caught.
Let's look more at info on the software used in this election that's so in question.
Founded in 2000, Smartmatic has enabled elections around the world to guarantee complete integrity and electoral solutions for the entire process. Through its own developed technology, Smartmatic has partnered in over 3,500 elections registered and counted over 2.3 billion votes in 5 continents.
Left-wing media like CNN will go to say, if you question any of the election software, you're an immediate conspiracy theorist. But look who's behind this software. Is it Trump's team or is it Biden's team? Let's have a closer look.
Okay, here's where it comes into play. DLA Piper. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and bring you over to this page, because who else works at DLA Piper? Douglas C. Emhoff. As he prepares to take on new responsibilities in support of the Biden-Harris administration. Why? Why? Because Kamala Harris is his wife.
Boom! Bombshell dropped. Caught red-handed.
On the web as being recorded in a conversation with Antifa members saying that he had the election rigged for Mr. Biden, nothing to worry about here, and they were going to F Trump on his social media.
If you don't know, Antifa is an organization funded by George Soros and the Clintons to help do some of the dirty work for the Democrats. If you haven't seen this play out, Democratic cities allow the violence from Antifa only to blame it on Trump.
His social media.
What's the difference between philanthropy and political activism? Well, there's none if your name is George Soros. He's stepping up his efforts politically to back every leftist in the country and to work as hard as he can against President Trump and his agenda. The left-wing billionaire transferring $18 billion to his Open Society Foundation. That makes it the second largest foundation in the country, and it's all about politics.
Hey, so at one point, a woman sort of facetiously asked if there were any paid protesters in the House, and of course everybody shouted no and groaned. But you stood up and indicated that you are a paid protester. What did you mean by that?
Well, I meant, like we all get paid to be,
No, I don't know. Please explain.
Well, it's a difficult thing to explain, but basically, anytime that you're given the opportunity to protest and somebody will pay you to do it, that's like twice as good as just doing it on your own time.
So you weren't kidding around. You actually meant that you have been paid at some point to protest?
Yeah, like
How can I get in on that?
Yeah. Okay. So you go to like georgesoros.com. And you just sign up right there. You put your name in, you put your email address, and there's an empty box there where you say how many times you're willing to protest and how much you want to get paid.
And you get a check directly from Soros?
Directly from Soros.
That's incredible.
Signed by him. He even invited me to lunch.
Does he sign it in blood?
He said if I'm willing to gather some more friends, I can get paid twice as much for every friend that I gather and kind of set up a pyramid scheme.
And you can get rich just based on protesting for Soros, right?
I already have, yeah. So basically, I've been organizing most of the protesting that you see in California so far, and it's all due to being paid. If I wasn't paid, I would be skiing. Why?
This is unbelievable.
Yeah. I know. I just wish more people knew about it, because then we could actually start a movement.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah.
Puppet master George Soros.
George Soros.
George Soros.
Liberal, left-wing billionaire George Soros.
George Soros. Soros. George Soros.
George Soros.
George Soros.
George Snot-Nose Soros.
Today we're going to expose George Soros once and for all. Who is he? What does he want? Why do his lips taste like cinnamon? And why is everyone afraid of an 86-year-old man? George Soros. You've probably heard his name before, but have no idea who he is other than a billionaire. Some on the right say he's a demon, a golem, a leftist Cthulhu using his mouth tentacles to pull the strings of a shadowy new world order. And some on the left say, who the f*** is George Soros?
To give that further context, the political moves that he's making and places he's putting money are all items that are pushing towards the same exact agenda to the United Nations and the New World.
And why does your
BLM leader telling you to your face it's Soros funded, it's Clinton funded, it's big banker, globalist cabal funded. Here it is, y'all. It's from the horse's mouth.
What's up, world? It's your main man, Chaziel Sons, and I haven't really been hitting nobody in the head. I've been doing a whole lot of growth, a whole lot of growing in the last about year and a half, 2 years. And I want to make this video because, you know, I've been concentrating on just family and close friends and whatnot, and just kind of leaving the movement to the professionals. And it was just like, you know, I'm basically say it like this. Around the time, I say, probably the end of 2015.
Ex-Black Lives Matter leader describes the plans in 2017 from the top, from the Clintons and the Soros, all the evil Democratic Party elites had known that they would use Antifa and Black Lives Matter to burn down cities to help derail the 2020 election.
Somewhere in there, probably going into 2016, I started to notice, I began to notice infiltrators coming into the movement, which is already, it's been like this for a long time, but I actually started to see them all online, making fake pages, and basically these fake people, part of the black movement or whatever you want to call it, were basically, you know, feeding off our emotions, trying to get us involved in things that we're not involved in, trying to get us to believe in things that we weren't familiar with, and basically pushing us to be more left and democratic. And one thing I want to say right now is, if you are a revolutionary or anything like that, you don't even believe, you're not even supposed to believe in politics. So for the people who still are believing that this movement, this black movement, even some of these white movements are legit, man, you have a lot of growing to do. I'm gonna say it again, you have a lot of growing to do. And I'm gonna concentrate right now anyway on the black leaders. Okay, the black leaders, a lot of the black leaders, and I want to hit with this video. A lot of the black leaders are straight leading us to our demise. Okay, they have us working, doing their dirty work. For us, their dirty work, I mean the far left's dirty work. They got us working basically for them, because how they're getting us is they're playing us emotionally. And they're basically saying how racist and how messed up guys are the far right and the neo-Nazis are, because they need all the help that they can get. So they're getting the gays, they're getting people of other cultures, the people of the far left. I'm talking about the far left. I'm getting somewhere with this. They're getting gays, they're getting black people, anybody who doesn't like Donald Trump. They're basically trying to get you to fight for a war that is being started on American turf very, very soon. And they want us to be a part of their side. What I'm trying to get the black population to understand and understand, and this is critical, is the movement has been compromised. RBG movement. If you were claiming BLM, you a real sad motherfucker. For the simple fact that BLM has always, and from the very beginning, was being promoted and being paid for by Soros and Clinton. If you think that these people who've never given a damn about you, all of a sudden they care about the black man's plight. All of us, man, y'all pay attention. Y'all really got to so important on black people, because I know black people like, okay, the left versus the right, what does that have to do with us? Because the people on the left are trying to use us. The people on the left are using us. The Democratic Party are using black people to fight their war with Antifa, with it's getting very, very deep.
The left literally funds Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and allows it in some of their cities. Then blames it on Trump, that the cities are on fire and need a new president. What the fuck? Wake up, people.
Both our investigations and very patriotic and brave American citizens that have come forward are extraordinary number of people, extraordinary number of witnesses. And what emerged very quickly is there's not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states. Almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud, specifically focused on big cities, and specifically focused on, as you would imagine, big cities controlled by Democrats, and particularly focused on big cities that have a long history of corruption. The number of voter fraud cases in Philadelphia could fill a library. Just a few weeks ago, there was a conviction for voter fraud, and 2 weeks before that. And I've often said, I guess sarcastically, but it's true, the only surprise I would have found in this is that Philadelphia hadn't cheated in this election. Because for the last 60 years, they've cheated in just about every single election. You could say the same thing about Detroit. Each one of these cities are cities that are controlled by Democrats, which means they can get away with anything they want to do. It means they have a certain degree of control over, certainly control the election board completely, and they control law enforcement. And unfortunately, they have some friendly judges that will issue ridiculously irrational opinions just to come out in their favor. So let's start with the specifics.
What's going on here? Steve has a fit about something.
What does it take to be a vote counting employee? Should they have to pass a background check? I think this is insane.
That's not voter fraud. I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you saw Politico put out a poll that 70% of Republicans don't have faith in the results of this election right now. And this is why. It's been rigged from the beginning. Rigged from the laws that were being passed in the name of COVID to create a porous election. Rigged in the sense that they kicked Republicans out of poll watching and observing. Why do you do that if you have nothing to hide? And now you have a media that's rigging it again by saying, we're not going to even listen to these stories. We're not even going to validate the 11,000 incident reports that we have, the 500 affidavits we have across these states, people testifying under oath how they were just...
If you watch CNN, you'll notice that they only say no evidence, baseless claims, no such thing as voter fraud ever. They won't even investigate like a real news organization or journalist should investigate claims. This should be your first red flag of many.
Franchise from this problem. That's the problem. And the other thing is, it is stealing. When you validate a vote that shouldn't be in, you are stealing from a voter that voted legally. So when you see these people in Detroit saying, we saw batches of votes that were invalidated, they had the wrong name, they didn't live there, they weren't a resident, they were deceased, and then you put them back in the pile of valid votes, which is what some of these affidavits maintain, that is stealing. And you are stealing from people who are voting legally. And the media, right now, by refusing to report on this, is stealing our faith in the election process. Tell the story. Talk about the people who are being disenfranchised. People across this country deserve to have election integrity, faith in our election system, and believe that there is election integrity. And that's why the RNC is going to pursue this to the very end. We can never let this happen again.
You said 11.
What you're looking at here is the Minnesota data results from the 2020 presidential election. This is available from the New York Times or any other website that provides all of the data. What was provided is the total vote count at a certain time, and then the percentage that went to Trump and the percentage that went to Biden. That is all the data that was provided.
They only publish data based on percentage of votes per candidate and overall votes. This is easy if you break down the math, see where the votes went towards the major candidate and the third party. That's it. Where these votes went, if you do break it down.
The percentage that went to a third party was calculated. The number of votes that went to Trump was calculated. It's basically the total votes times the percentage that went to Trump. Same with Biden, the total votes times the percentage that went to Biden. And then the third party votes was derived from that data, as well as how much the third party has the vote count changed between each timestamp, how much the vote party percentage changed between that timestamp, then also the same things for Trump, Biden, and then just the total change. Now, what I've highlighted here in yellow is every single time that the third party candidates, and there's a lot of them in Minnesota, it's not just one, but any time the third party overall vote went down, these are highlighted in yellow. And you'll notice that the percentage of it went down is pretty consistent, which we'll go over in a minute. But essentially that their strategy was to, I'm going to highlight the third party percentage here, so watch my mouse. So every single time votes came in, if that total got above 2.1% roughly, what they did is they adjusted it down by somewhere between 4 and 5%. So for example, at this very early in the voting process, the third party votes were coming in at higher than 2%. So what they did is they knocked 645 votes off of the third party candidates, which was roughly a 5%, 4.9% change. Now I don't know what happened to those votes, but I do know that they're no longer counted towards the third party, and it's like they're basically gone. Now as we keep going, as results keep coming in, roughly it stays the same, 2%, 2.1%, 2.1%. But then what happened is this is actually just about to go to 2.2%, and what they did is they adjusted it down by 4 to 5% roughly, and the third party candidates lost roughly 1,100 votes. Now the percentage started creeping up again, so then it got to more than 2.1 and it was adjusted down. This time it was adjusted down by 231 votes, just to keep it at the correct percentage. This kept happening. Every time it got above 2.1, they would adjust down by 1,300 votes, 1,400 votes, but it's always somewhere between 4 and 5%. That's how much the third-party candidates vote total lost. Now, as we keep going, here we hit something super interesting. So the vote total had gotten so fast, it went from 2.1 to 2.9, which is a huge jump. So what you'll see happen is the cheating algorithm, essentially we hit 3% and it had a major correction, brought it right back down to 2.1% again. And what that did is it stole 13,500 votes from the third-party candidates in Minnesota, and they dropped the third-party percentage. Like, they stole 30%. That's almost a third of all of the votes that were going to the third party at that time, just gone. So their strategy here is to keep this number, the percentage of votes that go to the third party, at 2.1%. Now, you'll also notice that this keeps happening. Like, this happened multiple times throughout the evening, taken away from one candidate versus the other. They absolutely stole this from, I think from Trump, but really the big losers in Minnesota here that their votes were really stolen was the third-party candidates. Now, I've already done the math, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this by all of the votes that were stolen from the third party over the course of the evening. So this is every single time that they adjusted the numbers. They adjusted it a total of 23 times. If you see down here on the right, this sum, they stole 59,683 votes from third-party candidates. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but the actual number of votes that third-party candidates were granted at the end of the evening was only 68,722. So 68,000 versus 50 plus the 59,000 stolen, that's 128,000 votes total for the third-party candidate. They stole 86%.
A lot of people are wondering if this is true. If all of the data and videos that I've been posting could just be a false narrative. Where is the real hard evidence, people ask? The real hard evidence of voter fraud, of the vote switching program, Hammer and Scorecard, was recorded by the federal government in a sting operation that coordinated the Department of Homeland Security and the election officials in states across the country. Transactions in the logs. Here is a detailed list. And remember, he points out, black box recorders recovered after a jet crash. All the data is intact. We know that this election was stolen over the net in real time. This list is organized by voting systems. And now they're going to highlight some of the swing states. In Pennsylvania, they recorded 220,883 votes that switched to Joe Biden. Trump lost 941,248 votes. They stole 1.1 million votes in Pennsylvania. It's a massive theft. 80,000 were switched in New Jersey. 21,000 were switched in Florida. The list goes on, people. This is a systemic issue across the nation, except in some of these areas: Hawaii, Washington, Alaska, Nevada. Kansas and Texas used Premier Elections solutions owned by Dominion Voting. Look at this. Texas with another 14,000. What is that? That's 45,000 margin. They switched 15,000 or 14,954, and then they just disappeared 35,557. This went on all across the country. When this gets to the Supreme Court, and here's the key. When this gets to the Supreme Court, we've all heard Rudy speak about this, about the evidence, about taking it to the Supreme Court. So I won't bother you with Rudy and Bannon's.
Sidney Powell launches her 104-page paper filing litigations toward the Georgia Court of Election Fraud. Twitter, being a tech giant, decides to filter and block this result. What do you think about that versus the Second Amendment right?
Discussion on the topic.
Hey, for Sidney Powell, that's for damn sure. Last night, Sidney Powell had released the Kraken. She dropped her litigation case out for the world to see. It's out in the open. It's running rampant. And these pricks in Twitter headquarters are like, oh, hell no. Oh, no, we banned that. We're going to censor this. We're going to tell everybody that it's malware and it's dangerous. We're not even going to let links go out to our website. Imagine this. This is where we're at. For everybody who doesn't get it at this point, we're at war. Welcome to war, friends. War does change. Don't listen to Fallout. Don't listen to Ron Perlman. War is constantly changing. And when you are in a situation right now where the mainstream media press is focusing more on Rudy Giuliani sweating, and the tech oligarchs are focusing more on the fact that they need to censor this type of court case going into court. All she did was drop her legal filings. She filed a legal case, and the mainstream media is mocking the grammar errors, and the tech giants are censoring the links. They're not doing that because they're winning. They're doing that because they're losing. They're doing that because they're panicked. They're doing it because they fucked, man. Shit. In one of these legal filings, I can't remember at which point it is because there's a million of them now. You got Lin Wood doing some. Sidney Powell did one. Sidney Powell actually did two of them. But Mark Zuckerberg's named in one of these. He dropped hundreds of millions of dollars on this election. There's some counties where he dropped tens of millions of dollars, and you got a bunch of wonkiness going on. He's been listed in some of these court filings. You motherfuckers going to jail. Everybody on our side knows what's up. We at war, and we getting ready to send some of you motherfuckers to Gitmo. All of the chaos that has been going on. I keep telling everybody to shut up, sit down, be quiet. Come in for some of this unity and healing because Joseph Biden totally got 80 million legitimate votes. You're a fucking prick, and we're gonna send your ass to prison. Take a look at this, guys. This just happened in the early mornings of today where we are at Breitbart. Twitter blocks, quote, potentially harmful links to Sidney Powell election lawsuit. That's right, Twitter is blocking users from sharing links to lawyer Sidney Powell's lawsuit relating to widespread voter fraud in 2020 presidential election. A number of users across Twitter have reported being unable to share links to lawyer Sidney Powell's lawsuit relating to voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. When attempting to share the link to the document, users receive a notification stating that the link has been identified as, quote, potentially harmful. And here's Jack Posobiec with a tweet, and he's saying, Twitter is now showing, quote, unsafe link warning messages for Sidney Powell's website. Here's another one from Stop the Steal, and they've got an image of what happened when they try to send out a tweet, and it says, tweet not sent. Your tweet couldn't be sent because this link has been identified by Twitter or our partners, MSNBC, as being potentially harmful. Visit our help center to learn more about all your wrong think. And so, of course, big tech is out there resorting to this type of censorship. These legal filings are the evidence, the proof, the fraud that's out and open for everybody to see. The vast amount of all of these ballots being counted in the middle of the night without any poll watchers there. Bullshit broken pipes that flood out this entire area, and everybody needs to evacuate except for a handful of Democrats that will continue to count ballots in the middle of the night. Then you find out there was no broken pipe. Shit, it was a flooded toilet 2 buildings over. This entire thing stinks like that broken toilet, and the Democrats know it, and the Democrats are panicking, and they're going out there and they're trying to stifle legal filings. When you're out there trying to memory hole legal filings, you must be fucking panicked, and you better be, because we coming for all of you idiots out there. You Twitter assholes, by the way. How well is this going to work for you? You just did this 2 weeks before the election. You did the same exact thing with the Hunter Biden laptop. You stifled the information. You blocked the tweets. You censored news outlets from talking about this. How well did that fucking go for you? Did you not watch South Park 20 years ago? The Barbra Streisand effect is for cereal, and it got 7 times more coverage because you dumb derp shits out there censored it. Well, that's going to happen with this. Sidney Powell is a space genius. There's a reason why she lit out that litigation receipts on the eve of Thanksgiving. Everybody's going to be talking about this today. Everyone's going to be talking about the censorship. They're going to be talking about this court case going forward. This is just the beginning. Things are about to get way wonky in this place because the fraud is all out for everyone to see. The lawsuits are going to pile up. We're starting to win some of these court cases, and the court cases that we're losing, that's totally fine. We aren't going to win all of them anyway, and there's so many Democrat fucking Obama judges out there that's fine. Every time we lose, it moves forward in the court system. These are all going to end up at the Supreme Court, the whole lot of them. We only need 5 counties to go to the Supreme Court, and all we need is our 5-4 victory when the 5 people on our side just sit there and go, this is clear fraud. This is clear fucking fraud. Look at this. This dude couldn't get 1,000 people on his Thanksgiving message live stream yesterday, but he got 80 million voters? That's fucking stupid. There are more votes than registered voters in some of these counties. This is fucking insane. No.
No longer about you, President Trump. This is about America. And many people agree with you. According to Reuters, 68% of Republicans and 28% of all Americans, that includes Democrats, believe there was fraud in this election. So let's go through some of the states, the 6 states that your team is challenging. What specific strategy does your legal team take going forward? Let's start with Pennsylvania. I know you said that you have a pile of affidavits. That's part of the evidence. What other evidence can you talk about that will enable you to prove this in court in the coming weeks, sir?
Well, we're trying to put the evidence in, and the judges won't allow us to do it. We are trying. We have so much evidence. You probably saw it Wednesday of last week. We had a hearing in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It was an incredible hearing, unbelievable witnesses, highly respected people that were truly aggrieved. A woman came in and she wanted to vote, and they said, no, I'm sorry, you can't vote. You've already voted. Your ballot's in. She said, no, I want to vote on November 3rd. I've been waiting for so long to vote. I'm so proud. I want to vote. They said, your ballot's in. I'm sorry. And that was the story, and she was aggrieved. And you have many people like that. Many people like that at a level that nobody would even believe. And that's where it is, Maria. That's one story. By the way, that's one story out of so many different stories. You know, the poll watchers, and this is true with all of the states just about that you're talking about. I think all of them, they weren't allowed to have poll watchers. The Democrats and thugs. Now, I'm not talking about saying, could you please move over? They threw them out of the counting rooms. They weren't allowed to be in. They threw them outside in many cases. You heard the story with the people, they went out and sent for binoculars because they wouldn't allow them to watch. And during that period of time, a lot of bad things happened. Then they closed, as you know, they closed up the voting. And then unexpectedly, they closed up all of the counting. Unexpectedly, new ballots came in. Then it was all new numbers being added. We have pictures and we have evidence of new ballots being brought into counting rooms. Maria, there's never been anything like this in history. And it all started with the mail-in, but it also goes to Dominion. It goes to a lot of things. But the mail-in, millions and millions of ballots being shipped all over. And ballots, as you know, there were a lot of ballots where it was just Biden on top. They didn't do anything else because they were in a rush. And from what everybody is saying, and from what I don't think we even have to prove this, they say that I was doing so much better than they thought that they panicked and they started just doing ballot after ballot very quickly and just checking the Biden name on top. They didn't have to. See, have all these ballots with just one name check. People don't vote that way. People don't vote that way. They want to vote against taxes and they want to vote for judges and they want to vote for a lot of other things that you have on a ballot, different races, including Congress. And they were just checked up top. Tremendous numbers of ballots like that. And that was done for the sake of speed. We have stories that are unbelievable, but we're not allowed to put in our proof. They say you don't have standing. I said I'd like to file to the lawyers. I would like to file one nice, big, beautiful lawsuit talking about this and many other things with tremendous proof. We have affidavits. We have hundreds and hundreds of affidavits, like the people that you saw the other day in Pennsylvania, are willing to sign under penalty of perjury. You go to jail. Willing to sign, unlike Comey, who didn't go to jail for lying.
100,000 plus votes in a row have only votes on the vote ballot for the president. That trend doesn't repeat itself anywhere else in the country, as in most legal voters would vote for their election officers and their congressional leaders.
All of them for Biden, many of them in these mail-in ballots with little bubbles for you to circle the person you selected. All of them for Biden with perfect circles. I believe upon examination you're going to find those perfect circles were made by a computer. This election was stolen, but they got caught.
By the way, McCabe, who didn't go to jail for lying.
Friendly reminder that Obama resigned from his Senate seat on November 16, 2008 after winning president. It's almost December and Kamala still hasn't resigned from her seat. She knows. Coincidentally, Biden's black vote has spiked only in exactly the locations necessary to secure victory. Did not receive comparable levels of support among comparable Democrat groups in comparable states, which is highly unusual for the presidential picture. We were told that in one more dominant than presidential campaigns in history, but Money Becker won 70% of counties. He only won 524 counties as opposed to 873 counties Obama won in 2008. Yet Biden somehow outdid Obama's total votes. Wow. Seems like a precise, calculated, planned victory to me.
My friends, prepare your cautious optimism because it would seem the FBI is proactively pursuing some kind of investigation into evidence of widespread voter fraud. I'm very careful with my words, maybe you've noticed. This morning, Donald Trump appeared on Fox News, Maria Bartiromo's show, talking about allegations of voter fraud. At one point, he said maybe the FBI was involved. Many on the left took that to mean that Trump was accusing them of being co-conspirators in a grand scheme. I just took it as to mean maybe the FBI was actually going to do something, but Trump has been very critical of the FBI, the DOJ in general, for not pursuing these allegations. Well now, Matt Brainerd of the Voter Integrity Project, who has found hard evidence of widespread irregularity and widespread voter fraud, has said the FBI has reached out proactively, directly requesting their findings that indicate illegal ballots. another group that has been filing a wave of lawsuits in this election, also says they're eager to get this data to the FBI, and I'm sure Trump supporters are going to be, well, clapping and cheering for this news. But at the same time, my friends, Donald Trump, after giving his interview on Fox News, was ridiculed and mocked by a mainstream media apparatus that said there's no fraud, give up, why do you keep lying and saying there is? While at the same time, the FBI apparently is requesting evidence on illegal ballots. The media in this country, the likes of CNN and MSNBC and most of these large news outlets, care only for telling you the narrative. They don't care to actually do any journalistic work, and therein lies the very serious problems we face as a country. Regular people in this country are not journalists. I don't expect them to know everything. And it's very difficult to tell a guy who's got a family and who works every day, you need to read news 24/7. Well, I do that, and I try to break it down to the best of my ability to make sure that you're not being lied to, and I'm giving you some nuance, whether it be lies from the right or the left. It just so happens that right now, the mainstream media is rather aligned with the left. But I will remind you, remember, it was the mainstream media that claimed their weapons of mass destruction in 2001 when they were helping the conservatives, George W. Bush, the Republicans, start their wars. The mainstream media is an apparatus of the establishment politics in this country, of which Donald Trump is not. So for the time being, the media is doing everything in their power to hurt Donald Trump's ballots. Said the FBI asked for his key files. The FBI has proactively and directly requested from me the Voter Integrity Project findings that indicate illegal ballots. By Tuesday, we will have delivered to the agency all of our data, including names, addresses, phone numbers, etc. My friends, evidence of widespread voter fraud. These are people who moved, changed their addresses, and then still voted absentee. Now, you may be saying, how do you know these individuals cast those ballots? You are correct, good sir. I don't. But that would imply someone else did, and it still makes it fraud.
What do you think?
Widespread evidence
I put the facts out for
no matter
y'all to
which
lay it
way you
out.
look at it. Now, the
Y'all
bigger
can play it
question,
out.
does this prove Donald Trump lost due to widespread voter fraud? No, it does not. And that's a big issue, but maybe not big enough. Because if enough questions are raised in key states like Georgia, for instance, where some of these findings come from, then Georgia might actually just say, we are in dispute and we cannot send electors.